Good morning, everybody. And Swati is kind in her introductions, but it's been a pleasure working with her at Youth for Seva. So when she called me saying, "Hey, we're launching this platform called SociallyGood," and the moment I heard the first few lines, I said, to what Bhaskar was saying and to what Swati's vision is, this is something that I've been dreaming about. A variety of initiatives. And without batting an eyelid, I said, hey, I'd love to be a part, not just of the inauguration, but of the journey itself. Essentially, I love the visualization that you said, Bhaskar, that how can it be as easy as booking an Uber or ordering something on Amazon for each of us to do something good every day and every minute. Right? A lot of people I meet say, yeah, I want to do something, but I don't know how, it's too complicated. So if we can somehow simplify that and make it so easy for people to give, I wouldn't even say give, to share, because personally I don't believe in this concept of giving, taking. It's too transactional. I believe in this concept of abundance, that each of us have enough and more to give and to share, and if we can unlock that abundance through a click of a button and make technology very simple for people to exercise and use that abundance, I think the world will be a much better place. Right? So delighted, and a big round of applause and best wishes for the journey ahead. One of the aspects that I was just discussing with Swati is, technology will solve a particular set of issues. I think it's still, especially given all the folks from the NGO world, I presume, here. I want to touch upon one particular aspect that I've been seeing up close. I want to share some thoughts on that. And I want to preface it with something that I'm sure, I have a 10-year-old son, and all I've heard over the last 2 weeks was 26th April, and I've been saying, what's happening on 26th April? This is Avengers Endgame, right? So, dhakka maar ke, like Saturday morning, he sat on my head and said, we have to see Avengers Endgame before anybody else gives me the spoilers. So last night, 10 o'clock, late night show, so I'm still coming back at 2 a.m. this morning, finishing a lovely Avengers. I won't tell you what the end game is. But the point that came to me powerfully as I was thinking about this point was how all the superheroes come together to destroy the evil Thanos, right? And I was wondering why, when that can happen, of course, on the big screen, why is it so difficult for NGOs to collaborate together? One of the things that I've not seen happen, and I would love to see, is that we see the same reinventing the wheel by an NGO A, which says, I'm doing this in Bengal, somebody else has done it in Kerala already, right? Somebody says, you know what, I'm trying to build this curriculum for youth, somebody else has done that and learnt and failed and stuff like that. The collaborative framework that exists for NGOs to work together, I think, is one of the critical aspects that we could leverage from the SociallyGood platform, right? How do we see the campaigns that's happening all over the country? Say, not just me as an NGO will want to create something else. Reach out to somebody doing that and say, hey, you're doing something, I'm doing X, you're doing Y. How can we combine it together to make, 1 plus 1 a bigger one? So if we can move from an organization approach to a cause-driven approach, given that we are all in the NGO space, we are all driven by causes rather than by organizations. Right? I don't care how large any of my organization becomes, as long as the objective of making sure that every youth is empowered is met. I'm sure that is the intent that all of us come with. We make it happen. I think is a critical aspect to think about. Leverage platforms like this to make collaboration a reality much more powerfully is something that I want to share for a few minutes. I was also reflecting on this book again by the latest sensation, Yuval Noah Harari, who's written Sapiens and Homo Deus and 21st Century Skills or whatever. And one of the things he says is differentiates humans from animals is our ability to form communities. He says, one gorilla, one man, no chance. But 100 gorillas, 100 men, the 100 men will easily overcome the 100 gorillas, because gorillas or any animal have not understood how to build communities and collaborate together, whereas humans have excelled at that. Right? So even with the advent of, as Professor was saying, AI, ML and all that stuff, the true ability of humans and with good intentions to collaborate becomes a very critical aspect. Some of the things people ask me is, why doesn't collaboration happen, right? What are the tick boxes of collaboration? And I can try to put it into an easy vowel alphabet soup, which is A-E-I-O-U. A is alignment, right? Many times we when we say we'll collaborate, we don't even look at the alignment of the organizations, and I think alignment is super critical to say, both from a social and a cultural angle, how do we align with each other, and if the alignment is strong, it is a good tick box for collaboration to start happening, right? One of the biggest reasons I see collaboration starting to fail is ego. That when we start working with each other, we start questioning, oh, that guy called me to his office for a meeting and made me wait for half an hour. Doesn't he think that I am good enough or not good enough for that to happen? And we see a lot of ego issues bubbling up to such large proportions that it automatically breaks down. So ego to equal, how do we treat each other as equal? Because we're all equal in this journey. I might be a funder, you might be an NGO, vice versa. We all have an equal vested interest in making sure that the world is a better place. It's not about egos, right? So assuming that ego is solved, the I that I talk about is intent, right? It's not just enough for alignment and egolessness, but what is the intent of our work? What specific stuff do we need to do, and what is the intention has to be clear. I keep saying that in the NGO world we have a fetish for MOUs. I typically ask, so how many MOUs have you signed? And somebody says, oh, I've signed 10 MOUs in the last 1 year. Now, how many of them are extended to reality? Very few, right? Because sometimes the alignment doesn't translate into intent, and that's critical for us to get to. O is one step. I keep saying that, well, we all have a vision that we'll do 100 things in the future. What is the one step that we do every day? How can we, when we work together, can we say, forget everything else, end of the month, what is the one step that you and I should have taken together for us to progress? Otherwise, that again gets lost in the larger on paper MOU without none of us committing resources. And lastly, in any partnership, things will go wrong. Things will go bad. I might say something, said something else, and we say, oh, it didn't happen. How do we build a level of understanding and trust where we sit across the table and say, yes, you said something, I said something, it didn't work. How can we make it happen, right? And I'm sure there could be many more, but I want to re-emphasize the fact that all of us here, if each of us can put a hand on somebody else's shoulder to say, you've done something, I have some strengths, how can we make the world a better place without having to worry about our organizations? I think that's when the Avengers can come into play, right? Otherwise, each of us treading our own paths with a land of whatever 3.1 million NGOs. If 3.1 million NGOs collaborated together, imagine we can do magic like this, right? But we're all struggling. We still see SDG indicators fairly low. We see happiness indicators even lower, human development indices struggling, employment issues in the country. We shouldn't be facing all those problems if the intent of these 3.1 million organizations to work together. So my other wish for Socially Good is, how do we bring it all together, right? How do we make sure that it becomes a platform where NGOs can start collaborating with everybody else in a very, very cohesive way, right? The last point I want to make, very interestingly, in one of the conference, somebody asked me, I was on a panel with Ford Foundation and Bill Gates and Foundation and so on and so on. Somebody said, how will I ever talk to them? If I put up my hand and say, I want to collaborate with you, right? They won't even look at me. And I was giving the example of a sambar. Saying into the sambar you need everything, right? You need those big chunky pieces of vegetables, you need the dal, you need the sambar powder, you need water, but more critically you need that last garnishing that you do of the salt. So what I was telling the NGOs was, imagine if yourself as the salt, right? And what is the value that you bring to the collaboration, where you say, because of the thing that I bring uniquely to the table, the sambar becomes sambar. Otherwise it becomes a saltless broth, right? So the other question that I would want all of us to reflect on is, what is our secret salt? What is the salt that we can add to this larger sambar that everybody benefits? So therefore, what is the strength that we should develop as people and our organizations, which we can say, this is our contribution to the collaboration? because without contribution there's no collaboration, right? So my thought that I want to leave you with is, let's all develop our own set of unique competencies that we can bring it all together for a lovely sambar that can be served, which can eradicate poverty. So on that note, love to wish Socially Good again for a socially good initiative. And as Swati was saying, I don't think it is their initiative, it's our initiative, and it's all up to us to kind of make it grow and make sure that the map that we saw, maybe in a few years time, we shouldn't be able to see the map, we should just be able to see a variety of dots all across the map populated, and that's the challenge that we have ahead for all of us. Thank you once again, and again a special thanks to Professor Sadagopan. I think sitting next to him itself, his energy kind of infuses a few years, reduces my age by a few years. I'm glad to have taken a part of that energy aura that comes along. Thank you so much.